Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Gates.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks very much. Well, Microsoft is a company with a mission to build the most empowering tools of all time. And I thought long and hard about, was there any analogy to what we're doing in terms of its scale, the act of faith required to go down the path that we're taking, going down full speed, even though these are tough times for our industry. And I decided the closest analogy was what happened in the decade of the 60s, when a group of smart people told the president, yes, if you give us the resources, if you're unwavering in your commitment to what we're doing, we can put a man on the moon. It required advances in hardware and software. It required hundreds of organizations working together. It required NASA to grow from a very small organization to a very large organization. And in the end, it was successful, and it changed the world. The 34,000 people of NASA and the hundreds of thousands of people who worked in the partner organizations, they made it happen. Well, I think even more impactful is building the software foundation that will change communication, entertainment, and creativity. And that is the mission that we've been given. And this is the decade in which it will happen. So where do we stand? Well, we're 50,000 strong, and we've made the decision this year to keep growing our ranks. Some will look at what we're doing here and say, wow, you must have an incredible belief that you can do something phenomenal. Because not only are we increasing our field activity and increasing our R&D activity, we're showing a willingness to make changes in our technology that sometimes force a transition. The transition to get to the Common Language Runtime, the transition to get to VB.net, the transition as we evolve the user interface. The amount we're spending here is really hard to grasp. It is like a moonshot. It's more than any industrial project ever, the 747, you name it, this is larger. And it's going to require us to learn a lot as we go down this path. It's going to require us to go down without wavering. The good news is that we are going to achieve this vision in this decade. It's the most important work that any of us have ever done. In a sense, we kicked this off a couple of years ago with the .NET announcement. And certainly, very little was fully understood there. You know, the credibility of Microsoft got behind the idea that we saw something different and we were willing to make changes, and that would evolve the platform and the applications. So it's a very unified architecture. And it is something that requires project after project to work together in a way that's never been done before. When people ask me about the risk here, I think another good analogy is to talk about a much smaller project, but one that I'm also very proud of, which was the tablet PC. Tablet PC, there's nothing anyone was ever taught in business school that said we should or shouldn't go and do that project. In fact, all the evidence said that we shouldn't. All the machines that had been done by us and other people previously had failed. And when you would describe to people, even inside Microsoft, what we were doing there, I think there was quite a bit of uncertainty, and in some cases downright skepticism. And it's a kind of project that you can only convince everyone by actually getting it done, by actually putting it in their hands and showing them what it can do. And there are many of the things we're going down here that will be like that as we build this new storage system that brings all the information together. That's very ambitious. Some skeptics will say, well, isn't that a lot of work? Will it be too big? Will it be fast enough? And the answer is, we'll make sure that it is. We'll apply the R&D to make this happen. And so there's a unified vision behind the .NET architecture. One thing I want to make clear today is there's a very key milestone in this process. Of all the milestones along the way, the most important will be the Windows Longhorn release. And that's a release that's several years out, but already the majority of R&D focus is moving to make sure that that is the breakthrough that it needs to be. The user interface, the file system, all the elements come together there. When you think about the tough problems that need to be solved in our industry, security, manageability, making it so people have access to numbers to make good decisions, making things more reliable. The fascinating thing is that every one of these problems needs to be solved by software. And Microsoft is in the driver's seat with software. There's many ways to look at this digital decade in terms of what we'll achieve. In every way that we think about photos, we think about financial information, we think about building applications, we think about sharing between groups and across corporate boundaries. In every way, we know that what we have today was built in an ad hoc fashion. It puts the device at the center, and each individual application has its own way to represent the information. Moving information between the applications requires either the user to do lots of work or people to come in, consultants to come in and write special glue code to move that data around. Even take something as simple as a list of names and addresses. Your buddy list is not the same as your address book. It's not the same as the information that you have in a human resource system. And there's no way to get those things to come together and have the common elements all be shared and up to date at the same time. And that every organization that wants to do that has to have people come in and write a lot of special code. And that special code is not robust as the underlying software products that store that information change. And so we all know that today's systems fall short. They fall short in terms of the ease that we do the things we want to do right now, and they fall short in terms of the things we want to do. Now, some people see the breadth of what'll come out of this more than others. The idea that when you get the microphone into the PC and you get the PC into that very small form factor, that what we thought of as phone calls in the past will typically involve not only video connections but also screen connections as well. To me, that's a very clear element of this thing and a very dramatic benefit. Some people see what will happen in the world of entertainment. Thinking about not just today's Xbox, but the Xbox and the PC 100 times more powerful than they are today. And perhaps more importantly, with tools that mean that building those applications, building those entertainment experiences can be handed over to people whose skill is based on creativity rather than having to get in and do low-level engineering. Now these systems have to work together. You know, security of information makes no sense unless the systems work together. Training a system in your voice isn't worth it unless all the systems share that same approach. And so the comprehensiveness of this .NET architecture that we're doing is quite broad. It's as ambitious as anything that's been done in the world of software. Let's take a look at how we progress this year. Every year throughout this decade, I'll stand here before you and give a little report card about which things went better than I might have expected, and which things may have shown up as challenges that we had not expected. Some of the key areas were great this year. The most important foundation product that we've got in the marketplace today for this approach is Visual Studio.net. That's the first time people saw what we're doing with the runtime, what we're doing with XML, what we're doing to take our tool strength and bring it into this new world. Windows XP, of course, was also a fundamental product. Whether it's moving people up to finally think of the NT kernel that was started over a decade ago as the key for how you run the Windows environment, or getting people to see that rich type computing, that our operating system is ready for that. Windows XP was very important. So those things went better than expected. The web services momentum, also very important here. The bet we made back in June 2000 that we announced at that time relied on people seeing that what was critical was not what language you wrote applications in, but rather that the applications adhered to a way of representing their data and indicating what data they had available and what format that data was in. And that's the XML dream. As you connect those XML sources together over the internet, that's the web services dream. Now we knew that piece had to be an industry standard for applications like e-commerce or to manage systems coming from different vendors. You can't have different ways of doing the information representation. In fact, so much of the code that gets written by consultants now is just simply dealing with the mismatches in information representation. And we reached out early on to large and small companies to drive standards around web services. The culmination of that this year with the Web Services Interop WSI group is really a very, very positive thing for this strategy. We have IBM in particular, but many other companies as well, agreeing with us that these standards need to be set and that these standards will be neutral as to the actual platform. There'll be a level of the standards that everybody has, and then beyond those standards, each company will innovate, but there'll be enough interoperability so that things like buying and selling can work between different companies. This happened a lot faster than we expected. The pioneering customers around the world understand web services, and many of them are starting to build applications using this approach. Our competitive strength, I'd say on a broad scale basis, is stronger than ever. That's because the kind of approaches we took, financially, investing in people, doing long-term R&D, weather a storm like this industry is going through far better than most of the other companies. In fact, it's fair to say we're in a stronger position with respect to our commercial competitors than ever, except I'd say in the case of IBM, we're in about the same place we were a year ago. IBM it's a mixed bag. They still haven't proven that they can move very quickly in software, but they are putting an emphasis on it, and we run into them again and again, both with their WebSphere and Linux-based approach. In scalability, we made a lot of progress. If you just look at the objective facts of the benchmark, it's one heck of a story. It's even a story that our competitors don't choose to engage in. Although I have to admit, this plus was somewhat clouded by the security questions that made people wonder when you have applications that are mission critical Even if the scale is good, what about the manageability and security and reliability and all the different things that are expected there? And on that front, we did not advance as much as we expected. I want to say a few words about the legal developments during this year and give you a sense of what you can expect in the next year. We are very pleased in our key legal case, which was with the U.S. Department of Justice, to reach a settlement. That's a settlement that imposes some requirements on us, but they're a very fair set of requirements. It's a settlement that preserves our ability to innovate. It preserves our ability to move full speed ahead on all the things that I'm talking to you about today. Now you notice I put a sort of a neutral arrow there, so obviously there must be something still outstanding on this. And in fact there is. There are the 9 states here in the United States that did not join in that settlement. And so that was considered by a district judge over the last 4 or 5 months. And she will rule sometime this year on that case. We're hopeful that what will come out of that will be end up being either the same or extremely close to the same as what happened with the DOJ. We think that's very important, so we hope to have that process come to a close. There are other legal activities that will be ongoing, some private lawsuits, some pricing things, various countries around the world. But I would say we're hopeful that with the resolution of the state's case, we would find that the visibility of these legal issues would be lower than it has been in years past. Now to some of the less exciting revelations, the new challenges that came out during this year. One of the aspects of our .NET strategy was at one point called Hailstorm, later renamed .NET My Services. And the concept there was very sound, the idea of storing personal information up on the web, letting people control the access to that and share it across different websites. In a sense, you can say, hey, that's common sense. I want to be able to take things like my credit card, and if I want to use it on multiple sites, not have to re-enter it. It's part of the vision of the web that you not just have a few websites that have got so much of your information that you only bother to go to them. The vision, rather, is that some new business that comes in who doesn't have all that information, you can take your information, and because it's stored on your behalf, you can send it without having to go to the work of re-entering it. And so it's part of the idea that the web is a very democratic environment. Any sort of merchant, someone with a newsletter, somebody who wants authentication or information about you, you should be able to send it to them with no re-entry. Well, the way we went down that path, both from an architectural point of view and an implementation point of view, was not getting us where we wanted to go. In fact, the passport service we were creating for the authentication element of this is a very good piece of work, but there too, we didn't articulate that anybody could control the namespace. That the approach we were taking is a so-called federated approach, where our namespace for consumers will just be one of many namespaces. Countries, other corporations, anybody who wants to can have a namespace that is in no way disadvantaged versus what we do. I think that over the last few months we've very much clarified this and made it clear that customers who have Active Directory will have a bridge product that will let the authentication work across corporate boundaries, and the way that we're handling Passport and letting other people connect up. This is another case where our standards work together with IBM, I think, will clarify what has been a very clouded picture. So a misfire there, but now I think we have that pretty much on track. The last two bullets were important enough that I have individual slides for both of those. So let me spend a few words on Linux. You've heard about Linux. I think from everybody who's gotten up here today. Maybe there's one or two who didn't mention it. So, you know, that's no coincidence. It is not overkill. Linux is the competitor that really did grow stronger this year. Now, it's a very unusual kind of competitor. It's different than what we've had in the past. It's a new kind of development model. Now, that development model is very good at certain things. In particular, the cost structure of that development model is better than our cost structure. And that's not something that we have some fix to. We simply have to have our model be better for meeting the needs that most people have. Now, it's interesting to look at where this model has been successful and where it has not been successful. In terms of taking the Unix design that's been out there since the 1970s and continuing to do refinements of it. Many of those refinements following work that had been done in the commercial space or taking things we had done with Windows and simply bringing them into the Unix space, it proved to be quite effective at that. When they turned that development model to something like building a browser, where a lot of the work is testing compatibility of literally tens of thousands of sites. Very gruddy work and a lot of code that's kind of no fun, and you need people to really test and test again and try for regressions. In a sense, it's a form of binary compatibility. Binary compatibility is one of the challenges we face all the time. That's why in our overall development organization, we have as many or more testers in every group than we have developers. Well, that's not the same for the kind of things that their development model has been good at. And so if you look at the public domain browser, it really hasn't made the same type of progress. And so this is a development model that we need to learn about. There are some aspects of it, like the flexibility they provide, the community outreach. Those are best practices that we are learning from. I think there's even more for us to learn there, but we have to match in some cases and exceed in other cases what they do in those respects. Some of the experimentation we did last year, like being very open with our Windows CE source code, that was a great initiative that paid off and has actually driven our market share in the embedded market up fairly significantly. We're looking at our shared source initiative and how we can be even more open with that without giving up one of our other advantages, which is the intellectual property assets that we have in the software that we do. Obviously, IBM has played a role in popularizing Linux, but it's important to contrast what IBM's doing with Linux in general. IBM is simply taking Linux as an operating system and then putting fairly expensive WebSphere elements on top of it. And so the resulting solution to the customer, really from a pricing point of view, business model point of view, is really no different than if you had bought an AIX system from IBM in the past. And yet by lending their credibility, they not only have helped themselves in that area, but also they've lent momentum to the part of Linux that comes from companies other than IBM. In a sense, IBM has been a chameleon these last few years. While they haven't had that much thought leadership of their own, they managed to participate in the Sun, Java J2EE thought leadership, participate in the Linux thought leadership, and participate in the Microsoft Web Services thought leadership. And so while IBM is daunting, they're a competitor that we understand. They're a kind of competitor that we faced in the past. And in the realm of software, which is what it's all about, we know how to move faster than IBM. We know how to do better work than them. Now, Linux will be our most important competitor every year in the next decade. So, you know, the amount you've been hearing about it today, you know, that's not going to change. And I know that we'll be a lot smarter about this a year from now than we are today. The key to our response is the value we bring, the innovation. Innovating across system boundaries, where you change the architectural pieces. That can only be done where you have centralized decisions and risk-taking that Microsoft is very good at. The breadth of the platform. Windows is not just an operating system as people think about that. In fact, we include things from the media server capabilities to the application server capabilities, lots of things that are quite expensive to add in the Linux world to get what we have. And so we need to reinvigorate people understanding the Windows platform and compare scenario to scenario, a file sharing scenario, an app server scenario, and really have people understand there's a very strong value equation. And then we need to fight to have the great applications be built in our environment. The other area I indicated that we were challenged this year was in the area of security. And no one in this auditorium will be surprised about that. You all faced customers who had NIMDA problems. And NIMDA came after people had had lots of email virus problems. And so they pattern matched and said, boy, does Microsoft have this under control or not? And in fact, we had not prioritized it the way that we needed to. Email viruses in particular, for people who updated Outlook, had those new versions out there, we have seen a virtual elimination of those as a major thing. But that's not the only propagation method. If you have any sort of code mistake in a internet-facing web server, can also be used to get in and propagate these problems around the network. And what we need to do is take this challenge and turn it into, from what it is today, a perceived weakness, into a strength by taking it head on, acknowledging what the issues are, and really sitting down with customers and talking about this overall problem. The problem has many aspects. Things like passwords are very weak. Those will not be sufficient for companies that want to protect their data. The way email protocols allow you to spoof and pretend that email is coming from someone else. These things have to change. In January of this year, as part of one of my annual Think Weeks, I sent out an email that sort of tried to raise the alarm bell in this area, and I'm proud of the way the product groups responded. I know we still have more to do. We have a lot more to do. But I would claim that in 6 months, we've made more than 6 months of progress on getting our act organized here. What will our contributions be? Well, first, more robust code. Tools that actually prove the code's reliability. Approaches that reduce the errors by much more than a factor of 10. Many of these tools we've been working on internally for many years. And not only are we going to use them internally, but over the next several years, we'll be able to productize them so our customers can use them on their Windows applications. A second element is making sure that when there's a vulnerability, that it gets fixed. Because we hear about the vulnerabilities generally well before they're exploited. You can think about this as sort of the equivalent of vaccination. And that's where our software update server is going to be important. Certainly for internet-facing systems, we're going to have to convince our customers that they need to get the critical patches coming to them at internet speed. That is, coming to them before the exploits likewise come across the internet. Another key piece of this, and one that I'm very excited in the things we're doing, but it will take new releases, is making it so whenever there is a problem, there's quick recovery. People have visibility of what's going on. They can reset things to get them back up and running with very low cost. We also need a lot of special tools so that people can see where they're being attacked, audit those things, have logs, and so some of those will be built into the system, and some of them will become additional product opportunities. Now, the .NET architecture, one thing I love about it is we would have had to invent this if all we cared about was just one of each of these 4 domains. Let me take business processes. Well, there, the famous application is e-commerce or e-government. That requires being able to discover people across the internet, being able to send them messages, not have to trust their computer, so that if they're trying to do something malicious, your system works perfectly well. Would have required making it easy to write applications that work at a distance. And so just the e-commerce thing alone would have required us to invent all these protocols and tools, to invent the idea of schema being at the center of how people think about data. Data is far more complex than simply the relational model can capture. And that's why these hierarchical structures, these variant structures that can be codified inside XML are so important to what we're doing in every part of our system, to Microsoft Office, SQL Server, to Windows, to the development tools. Everything we're doing is based around that. So we would have had to do all of it just for that quadrant. Likewise, if you look at the IT department, well, they care about a lot of things that we need to do better on. Keeping software up to date inside their shop, knowing exactly who's doing what, understanding where systems are behaving in a slow way. You know, today an IT manager says, I don't know if my Outlook users are getting slow responses. Well, the right architecture should let him just simply type in a probe. That probe is propagated out, and a few days later he gets great statistics saying, okay, who's getting good responses, when are they not getting good responses. It's a system that gives that IT person total visibility without anybody having to visit. IT people don't understand where they need caching servers. They have to put too many servers out in the branch offices, creating vulnerabilities there. When they do directories, I mentioned propagating the information between different applications about people, and we've made that very difficult. The architecture we'd invent, if all we cared about was management and software distribution, would be this .NET architecture. For information workers, we've solved a lot, but there's a number of things we've never solved. We've never solved the idea of controlling a document. So you can say, okay, this document should only go to these 5 people. It can't be forwarded. And those 5 people shouldn't have to be just inside one corporate boundary. So we need an architecture that can deal with that. We need workflow architecture, where if you communicate with someone and they don't get back to you by a certain time, it can be escalated and tracked in a very rich way. You need to be able, as an end user, to draw out exactly what should happen in the sequence of events. We pioneered a lot here with BizTalk, but what you've seen in BizTalk so far in this whole workflow area, we've really just scratched the surface in terms of what needs to be done and what we're building in now at the center of the .NET architecture. For consumers, it's reaching out to servers that can store their information. And so every device they pick up has the information they care about without them having to do anything special. So .NET is one architecture, but it's revolutionary in every one of these domains. We're often accused of being a company that doesn't think about all 4 of these domains, or doesn't think about them in the right holistic way, the challenges they present. And it's fair to say that as the industry moved from hundreds of clients to hundreds of thousands and millions of clients, and from tens of servers to thousands and tens of thousands of servers, the architecture didn't scale up. That's not a problem that mainframes had solved in the past. They literally solved it by being one piece of hardware with one operating system instance with very smart people managing it. So this is state-of-the-art work. And state-of-the-art work that the progress of the last 3 or 4 years, which is fantastic, will reflect itself in products built around the architecture. So how does it look in terms of the years ahead? How do the different pieces come together? Well, I've divided up the waves of these advances, shipping in products, into the next 3 fiscal years. The first wave, the Now wave. The second wave I've called the Yukon wave, and then the third is the Longhorn wave. Well, what's in the Now wave? A lot of great stuff, most of which you've seen about, heard about during the course of the day. The Media Center, MSN8, tablet, customer relationship management. Late in this fiscal year, there'll be an update of Exchange, a very customer-driven update to Exchange. It's not changing the architecture. It's simply taking all the things that people have said they want to be better in Exchange and being very, very responsive to those things. The smart display work, the .NET Server family. The .NET Server release is another release like that Exchange release, where what we've done is very responsive to people. In fact, we've taken a lot of features that have been in the Windows Server for a long time, but we didn't make them very accessible. Things like policy and replication that are neat technologies, but there were blockers there that our customers have educated us on. And with the .NET Server release, we removed a great deal of those. So that is a very major release that I think you'll all, as you learn more about it and see what we've been able to pull together, you'll get very excited about it. Office 11, you got a glimpse of that today. Big step in the right direction. A Visual Studio release, and then the Business Framework, which is taking the expertise that came out of Great Plains and Division and saying, hey, can we have that, take some of that and have it be a common thing that we can go out and reach out to third parties in a new way. So it's been a major effort and one that I think will drive us to have some new partners. One of these technologies that you haven't seen yet is the Windows Media 9. And there's some really great things here that actually came originally from Microsoft Research and are now going to get out to everybody with a Windows PC. I'd like to quickly ask Nancy Nairway to come up and show us exactly why are we so excited about Windows Media 9. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Bill. Good to see you. Thank you for letting me play today. Now, Microsoft Research has contributed huge innovations to the new Windows Media 9 Series platform, which goes to public beta September 4. This will allow us to deliver streaming over the internet and for the enterprise, and to deliver a home theater-like experience to your PC. I'd like to start by looking at variable speed playback. Microsoft Research innovation has allowed us to speed up and slow down the playback of content. So to demonstrate, I'd like to start a clip playing at a normal speed, and then I'm going to speed it up. And when I do, I want you to notice that the audio pitch remains unchanged. So let's start it. They're working at backstage.
Purpose in this webinar
There we go.
is to share
My
with
apologies.
you our key strategies
Let's speed it
to
up.
help us achieve our goals moving into the next fiscal year. By combining aggressive marketing efforts and strategic alliances, we will be positioning our
Yeah,
company
that's
for
pretty
success.
cool, isn't it?
I'm sure many of you will have.
Yeah, I'm glad you think that's a big deal. Because this ability is some really complex technology that Microsoft Research gave us to really make sure that audio pitch remains unchanged and doesn't start sounding like the chipmunks. Now, I'd like to show you how we've improved the viewing of low frame rate video from the internet for people who are not yet on broadband. Now, on my screen, I have two panes. The left pane has the Windows player from Windows XP, and on the right pane, we have the new player from the Windows Media 9 series. Now, notice how the pane on the left seems a little bit bumpy and jagged, where the player on the right plays the video much more smoothly. The reason for that is that the new Windows Media 9 series player intelligently adds frames to bring this low frame rate content, which is 15 frames per second, up to a standard 24 frames per second play. Yeah, that's cool. Now I'd like to switch gears a little bit and show you how our advancements in audio-video technology have allowed us to bring a home theater-like experience right to your PC. Now, our new Windows Media Audio Professional delivers a 5.1 channel surround sound to the PC. Unfortunately, the Dome isn't equipped with surround sound, and I can't show you that today, but I can show you our new high-definition video and how that delivers better than a DVD quality right to your PC. So to demonstrate, I'd like to show you about a 1-minute, 700 kilobit per second clip from dinosaurs.
Aladar, where's Suri?
She's up in the tree.
Their faces are so cute. Enough of that. I guess I'm going to have to see the movie. That's pretty cool. Now remember, that was a 700 kilobit per second stream playing from a PC. Now last year when I was here, I had the pleasure to introduce you to how the Windows Media 9 series virtually eliminates buffering to deliver an instant-on playback experience of streaming content over the internet or the corporate intranet. Now this year, I'd like to show you a practical application of that technology. One of our partners, Entertainer, delivers music and videos over the internet, and when we release Windows Media 9 series, they will use that technology to deliver their service. This is an example of what their site is going to look like. Now notice how I can move from clip to clip to clip. And where's that 10 to 15 second buffer that we're all so used to? So that's the type of experience we're going to deliver our customers over the internet with Windows Media 9 series. Now Windows Media 9 series goes to beta September 4th. I think you'll join us there. And then we will release before the end of the year. Bill, thank you for letting me show you what Microsoft Research has done for Windows Media 9 series.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Looks great. There's a key reason we invented that video speed up. Steve asked me if there was a way to keep the MGB on time. And what I said is anybody who runs over, next year, we'll just record them in advance and we'll set the playback mode fast enough so they get their thing done on time. It's technology at work. All right, so that first wave, as you can see, is a very rich one, full of great new things there. The second wave is a little bit less, and there's a key reason for that, is that we've asked the different groups to focus a lot of their energies on the third wave, on the so-called Longhorn wave. The key element in this middle wave is actually a major update of SQL Server. And the reason we're bringing it out in the middle wave is it's actually a fundamental technology that then goes into Windows and is part of this new Windows file system. That's sometimes called WinFS or the Longhorn Store. And it's really one of the more amazing and aggressive pieces of that version of Windows. So we want to get that done and actually ship it as a SQL product and have it available to internal and external developers in the wave before Longhorn. So this is where XML becomes a native data type. Today what we've done with SQL is we put an XML mapping layer on the top. And it's a nice piece of work. It was a leadership piece of work when it was done, but it didn't bring XML to the core. Here with the Yukon project, that's the most important thing the SQL team's been working on. That's very important. There'll be a release of Visual Studio to go along with it. There'll be an annual release of MSN. And then some of our workflow or other server products will be coordinated into a major release called Jupyter. Well, all of that builds us towards the wave that has the most breakthrough element in it. You're going to hear this term Longhorn a lot. This is what I spend the majority of my time working on, making sure that all the groups have a common view they're taking advantage of the other people's work, and that the right scenarios are going to be delivered. So this is a major version of Office that not only runs with Longhorn, it requires Longhorn. That's very necessary if you're going to get full exploitation of the new user interface, the rights management, the file system, all the things that are built into that release. So we'll have developer tools. We'll have a fairly radical advance in Exchange. This is a version of Exchange that, instead of using its own data store and therefore having its own tools and APIs, is actually built on top of the Yukon data store. Those of you who have been around a while know that this is something I've been looking forward to for a long time, and it's part of why I'm so thrilled about my decision to focus full-time on the software products. It really, full-time focus is going to help get this done a little bit sooner than it would get done otherwise. Of course, there'll be a release of MSN that takes full advantage of this, and there'll also be a version of our applications taking all the R&D efforts of Great Plains and Navision, building on top of that business framework, and coming out with a round of applications that is essentially the successor to all the different applications that our customers have out there. And because of the way it exploits this platform, that will be a breakthrough release. My belief is it will be important to the world of applications for the size companies that it goes after. It's important for them as R3 was in its day for the enterprise type customers, a major change in terms of how people think of applications. What are some of these scenarios that are very big here? Well, I mentioned the idea of how the computer thinks of people. Does it have one list of people that all the applications share? If you have the name of a person somewhere, can you simply point at that and have all your options for communicating with that person, or call up any documents or things that you have on your machine that might be related to them? Information agent. This is this idea that if somebody's going to interrupt you, it should be something that you care about. And so it should only come to you when you're interested in it, and it means knowing what device you're using, what your context is, how important various people communicating with you is. That's a very big thing. We're taking the idea of the crash feedback to a whole new level here. I call it customer connection, and letting people even give us feedback about things that aren't errors, but things to community in a rich way. The storage system is the thing that will ensure that you're only going to learn one new way of browsing information, and it'll be with the power of the database. So the search commands that you have in different places, navigating the registry, the file system, email, all of those are brought together not only into one engine, but one simple UI that you use to find printers, find people, find files, find messages. It's a single rich store that supersets the ones that we've had to date. There's a lot of things that are in what we call incubation mode, and some of these will deliver a little bit of stuff before Longhorn. Some are in the Longhorn timeframe, and some are somewhat after that. We as a company have learned to start these incubation efforts with very small groups of very talented people, and have them really develop the concept and even the prototypes before we apply the large-scale manpower that then takes it into a full product. Whenever we've given too much headcount early to these incubation efforts, sometimes some of the key questions haven't been answered, and it doesn't get redirected the way it should be. So we've learned a lot about incubation. We have today a lot of incubation going on. You may have noticed that Bob Mugley moved to a job to help us do storage products, and he'll help us with the Windows storage and things that go on top of that. Mike Nash moved to do security products. Very exciting. He starts with ISA server, but there's a lot that he'll add into that. Both of them and these other incubation groups are hiring not only inside the company, but we're going out to get top people. This is a great time to be going out and hiring top people from other companies. And I mentioned the directory problem that IT people have. No one's really solved that. We have an incubation effort to make sure we do. Real-time business intelligence, a new kernel, a way of writing applications that display XML information that makes it very simple to do. So a lot of bets here, some of them incubating in the product group, some incubating in our research group. I'm very proud of our research group. Although it's only about 10% of our R&D headcount, a lot of the things that are the most breakthrough come from those groups that are dedicated to technologies. Our natural interface efforts are part of that. You know, understanding ink in a deep way, understanding speech. In fact, our speech group is now a combination of research people and product people because we have a timeline to get these speech capabilities out into the mainstream. I want to give you a little bit of update on the progress we've made, particularly in making it easy to develop these things. So I'd like to ask Martin Krieger to come up and show us a little bit about our new developments in our speech platform.
Hi, Bill.
Welcome.
Hi. What I'm going to be showing all of you is a demonstration of natural user interface technologies, both in speech recognition and in natural language understanding. Now, our group has been working really closely with customers like Fidelity Investments to really understand what they need so we can make a really good product. And we're developing this speech platform that will let developers take .NET applications and actually put speech recognition right into the code. So these ASP.NET web applications enabled with speech can be served up to the desktop, to the tablet, even to the telephone with your keyboard, your mouse, and now with speech recognition. And natural language technologies will let these applications really understand what you're trying to do and really help you get to the information that you need. So here I'm at Fidelity's website, and we've enabled this website with natural language and speech recognition technologies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find out about investing for college. But instead of putting in some search keywords, I'm just going to tell it what I want to do. And what I want to do is I want to research college funds. The application understands what I'm trying to do, so it presents me with normal search results, but it's also presented me a series of these quick tasks, which are essentially actions it thinks I want to take. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out the application. And I'm going to use my profile. Now, Bill, you notice that the application has actually gone ahead and changed the tasks that I can perform based upon what it knows I'm doing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my voice with speech recognition to talk to this application to do some quick form filling. 15. 3. 5. So as you can see, Bill, this application was able to take my voice, understand what I was saying, and put in the information, which has really made my experience really natural and really easy to use. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the telephone here, and I'm going to call the same web application. So what you're going to see is I'm going to interact with the application over the telephone using my voice. Now, some of the tasks that the telephone is going to provide me are going to be different than what you saw on the visual web because, well, the application understands that without a screen, certain tasks really don't make any sense.
Welcome to Fidelity Investments. Please say your secure account number.
181641285.
Hello, Alex. What task can I help you with?
I want to invest for education.
For college funds, I have found 18 search results. Would you like me to email these to you, or would you like to do a related task?
What are the related tasks?
There are 3 related tasks. I can send you literature on investing for education, on 529 savings plans, or send you a 529 savings plan application form.
Send me the application.
Would you like me to send the form to your email address or to your mailing address?
Email it to me.
I have sent the form to your email address. Would you like a representative to follow up with you to help complete this form?
Yes, please.
Thank you. A representative will contact you shortly. You have an alert from banking. Would you like me to transfer you?
No.
I wonder what that is.
So, Bill, the really exciting thing about this technology is we're coming out with a technical preview of this platform this winter. So all of you can go to your customers today and tell them, you know what, invest in .NET, build .NET applications because you're really laying the foundation that these speech technologies are going to be building on top of. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. One interesting thing about our speech strategy is that we view that speech and the screen are not two separate things. And so we've kind of taken a unique approach that will let there be applications where the speech, the pen, and the keyboard all come together. Because whether it's the large screen or the small screen, we think that speech and video display output, those things will be intermingled in any type of typical communication session. Well, let me close with two things. First, some thoughts about the next year and what our priorities are. For me, I would label this next year a year of engagement. In some cases, a year of re-engagement. In some cases, a year of first-time engagement. With developers, historically, Microsoft was very in touch with those developers, and we had the best tools. If you look, our share of developers is still extremely high, but it's eroded somewhat. It's eroded somewhat at the academic level. It's eroded somewhat at the corporate level. But the story we have now is one that they should hear. And so the clever approaches, grassroots approaches, getting lots of people together, sharing the excitement, showing the examples, we're going to have to reinvent some of those and come up with new techniques so that people understand where we're going with this. We're going to have a clear roadmap for them so they don't feel surprised as we're going down this path. That is a very key asset for us, and one I think this year should be very exciting as we reach out to those people. Information workers, we used to call them knowledge workers, but we decided information workers is a better term. In some ways, this is our home audience, the users of Microsoft Office. But even here, I think that what Jeff said about thinking about what people should do with their information workers in a more leadership way is an important priority. And that's why we funded that as a major priority out in the field. If an account comes and says, should I use instant messaging? If so, how? Is it effective? Does it help? Doesn't it have these negatives? How do I deal with that? What are the costs? Well, Microsoft should have very clear answers there. Microsoft should know, what's happened in various organizations, including our own, and be able to guide them down that path. And in many cases, show them that, yes, the software that provides those capabilities is very reasonable to set up and have a very turnkey way of doing that. And so the leadership involved is a vacuum that we're going to fill. I mentioned IT departments. IT departments, today, they think of us as not having met those scale challenges. And yet, with the work we're doing, with our big infrastructure that comes out with .NET Server, with the evolution of the management tools, particularly as those get built on top of this .NET architecture, I think over the next several years, we'll turn that around. We will be the friend of that IT manager because we're coming to him with products built on an architecture that understands their needs. Helping them make the transition with the versions of the software they have out there today. I won't pretend that there isn't a challenge there for all of you in those relationships. But it's very important, and so engaging with them, the investments you make in that, I think will pay off in the years ahead. Small and medium business, another great area for us. Often talk about the potential there. The architecture we have here is going to give people flexibility about what information they host inside their company, and having third parties or Microsoft host the information remotely. That idea that in some ways was overhyped in the era of hosting companies really is a valid approach, and yet it requires much better software setup, what we're doing in .NET to make that possible. And so we'll be coming to them with a very integrated approach between the applications, the platform, the services that go with that, so we have an incredible upside there. If there's one thing that I would love to see at the end of this next year, it's increased platform credibility. Credibility that for enterprise applications we can take on the toughest tasks. In many accounts, the best we can hope for in the next year is that IBM WebSphere and Microsoft.NET are the two approved platforms. And that's okay. Even if we only have a few of the design wins, the benefits of our approach win out over time. The situation that we can't deal with is the one where people aren't getting on the learning curve and seeing what our stuff is because they've simply taken a pure WebSphere or J2E approach. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge that the platform credibility, the tools, the examples will all have to come together. Certainly given the fantastic work that was done the last year, I'm sure the challenge I'm articulating here is one that you'll rise to. Final thing I want to talk about is why I think this work is different than any other. Building the software platform that creates tools of empowerment. Now, I'm lucky enough in my job to get around to see things that many companies are doing. I'm lucky enough to get out and get involved in philanthropy, and certainly very important work going on there that I'm excited to be involved in. But what we're doing here is the most important thing going on. It's the most exciting thing. It's the fastest moving thing. It is very ambitious. You will hear from time to time, hey, Longhorn, you know, I hear it's a little slow. I hear it's a little late. Yep. Some of those rumors will be true, too. But we are moving down this path. We've already really made a lot of the tough breakthroughs that are needed. So it's exciting. It's about empowering. The effects it's going to have are wonderful. And your contributions and your commitment are critical. Thank you.